Hey, everybody, it's your girl, Author Doc B in the building. And guess what? We have a special treat for you tonight. So come on in and click like and share because the presenter we have tonight, listen, I'm in Atlanta. This is the launch. We are kicking it off. There's every Thursday night at 8 p.m. You are going to find me right in this seat. I have the wonderful, oh my goodness. I'm so excited. The wonderful Dr. Lawrence Bryant. Let me tell you, he does so much in community. I'm going to bring him on in 1 minute, but today is a special day. Guess what? It is the world's, right? It says International AIDS Day. Like, who would have ever thought? Thank you all for joining. I see you there. I see a couple of different countries. Sierra Leone, I see you there. Thank you for coming. Thank you. I see you. Was that Belgium? Wait, I've never had you before. Then I see a couple of people on my YouTube channel. Listen, I thank you all for just popping in because Dr. Larry Bryant is going to do his presentation today on HIV. I'm going to bring him on, and then I am going to bring up his PowerPoint, and he is just going to wow you with some, when I say some dynamic stuff, it's going to blow your mind. All right, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him in 1 minute. Let me bring up the PowerPoint, then I'm going to bring him on, but I want to say some things about him first. I'm going to read you his bio. Okay, I'm going to read that to you, and then we're going to get started. Awesome man. Man of God. Okay, here it is. Larry. Hey, Sherry. Hey, everybody. I see you all. I see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Oh, wait. B-I-O. All right. Let's get them right on in. So I'm going to bring him up. I do have his bio up now, and I'm going to read it all to you. Oh, I got a lot of presentations here. Bio. Here we go. All right. So here we are. You are about to meet Dr. Lawrence Bryant, PhD, MPH, RRT, BSW, and AAS. You heard that? That's somebody I want to be like, right? So then we have, hi, I see you. Somebody said, I'm proud of you too. Thank you so much. Thank you. So Dr. Bryant brings a plethora of experiences and knowledge dealing with substance use disorders, HIV and AIDS prevention, cultural, and that you will even see in his attire. I love the way he dressed. And so cultural responsiveness and issues related to race and sexual orientation. He has successfully developed and implemented a statewide strategic plan for the state of Georgia in response to the opioid and prescription drug overdose epidemic as a result of a formative work. Let me tell you, Dr. Bryant received a grant to do multicultural. Y'all heard what I said. To address the needs among the different populations. Let me see. Hold on, I'm lost because I'm super excited. And y'all know I'm excited. As a result of his formative work, that's what it says. Dr. Bryant received a vulnerable populations in support of the statewide strategic plan in the state of Georgia for public health. Dr. Bryant has also published over 20 peer-reviewed articles, which I had the pleasure of reading a lot of them when I was in my doctorate course to put into my capstone work to get my EDS. So I'm grateful for him. And then I come to Georgia and move here and get a chance to meet him in person. OMG. So please click like and share. I see you on Twitter. I see you all over. I see you on both my channels and everything. Okay. So just please share this information. It's so important. It says also that Dr. Bryant has published the 20 peer reviews, right? And the articles are in the area of HIV, AIDS, homophobia, racism, and tobacco use prevention, and has been a registered respiratory therapist for over 45 years, fighting on the front lines during COVID, y'all. Come on. He was on the front lines, right? And then it says that as a part of us, oh, wait a minute. And he's an assistant professor, okay, at Kennesaw State University and Capella University. Dr. Bryant teaches SUD, which means substance use disorder, health and wellness courses, and he does research and training in these areas as well. Oh my gosh, treatment and recovery, that's the thing. Y'all gonna hear all that mixed up in there. Dr. Bryant is he's sought after to speak and do presentations on a national level, y'all. National level. And on August the 16th, 2022, he celebrated. And he put this in his bio. He celebrated. We talking about 30 years of recovery. Need I say more? Need I say more? We're going to bring him on. We're going to bring him on right now. And so, okay, I see your comments. Just drop them in the box. Drop all your comments in the box. Say whatever it is that you need to say. There's a space where you can share whatever you want. Some of you got the number. You can call in 267-242-0399 for comments and questions and things of that nature. You can all do that. So hold on. Let me get the oh gosh, I'm so happy. I'm about to bring them on, y'all. Y'all better be ready. I hope y'all ready, because I'm ready. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to add them in. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up. Give it up for him. Come on, louder. I don't hear you clapping. I don't hear you clapping. I don't see you. Give it up for him. Come on, give him that standing ovation. All that work he did. All right now. So, thank you so much for joining. I really do appreciate your presence here tonight. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. I am honored. And I don't know that I've ever had an introduction like that. So I certainly do appreciate you, but I'm humbled by it all.
Well, thank you very much. And so I told everybody who you are. And can you hear me backstage when I'm making the introduction and stuff? So I guess you can hear all that stuff. When we're back, when you're backstage, before I bring you on, you can hear me doing everything. Yeah. Good. All right, good. So without further ado, let's talk about, because Bring It to the Table is a place where we address people's issues of overcoming stuff, surviving some stuff, So for the audience, there's a couple of questions that I have that Dr. Bryant, if you don't mind sharing with them. One of the things you have overcome, one of the things for sure, you have conquered it. You have conquered it and then survived. But the main thing is how you're now living beyond your own expectations, not society's, but your own expectations. And so that's what we do. We bring everyday people on, like you, myself. And I think I'm a star. I'm in my own mind, I'm gone, I'm just saying. I'm already gone, so because I've exceeded my own. And that's what gave birth to this platform. The things that we do in life and the places that we go. The things that we've been through. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you. And it is now time for you to speak about anything that you have overcome conquered, and survived.
Again, thank you so much. And, one of the things that I know today is everything that I've gone through in my life was not just for me. Anything that I've overcome in my life was not just for me. Anything that I've been able to bounce back from was not just for me. I know today that everything I've gone through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, was so I could stand before you today and make some pretty bold proclamations. Number one, recovery is real. Recovery is possible. We've got a saying in our community that any addict can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. And I'm certainly an example of that. But at the time that I was going through the darkness, is what I call it, I just never even imagined a life like I have today. I thought that, and let me just go back just a little bit. I was the last person on the block to use substances. I was always very anti-substance when I was in high school, when I was in college. I just did not believe in drugs, and I was not raised that way. I was not. I did not live in that environment. But I tell people all the time, you never know what can happen, and you never know who can become addicted to substances. And so my catalyst was a broken heart, the inability to be able to cope with a failed relationship. And I tell you, I remember, Felicia, that time as if it was yesterday, and that was close to 40 years ago.
My.
But I remember at the breakup of this relationship that I was destroyed. I couldn't work. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. All I could do was just, at that point, this is my first time ever even contemplating suicide. Not very, but the thought certainly crossed my mind because the pain was so devastating for me.
Yeah.
And so at that point, and I was about close to 30 at that time, I made a conscious decision that no matter what it took, that I was going to do whatever I needed to do to get out of that dungeon that I was in. And it did. It worked. It worked.
Wow.
But by the time that it worked, I was hopelessly addicted to substances in Los Angeles, California in 1982.
Wow. Wow.
And I tell you, even through it all, even during that time, I was still a respiratory therapist. But to be so hopelessly addicted to substances that I had nowhere to sleep. There's no greater fear than not knowing where you're going to lay your head.
Yeah.
There's no greater fear than being preoccupied with your safety. Then just, I can recall the area that I sort of frequented in Los Angeles. It was right next to a cemetery. And I can recall walking past that cemetery, and I walk past it every day. And every day I walked past and I looked over and I thought to myself, it's just a matter of time before I buy one of those plots. I mean, that's how mortal my life had become. But let me just tell you.
Wow.
Let me just tell you that I finally made my way to a 12-step program. I can't say how I did it. I can't, but I think early on I was sort of introduced to it, but never really took advantage of it. But I was at such a place in my life where I had gone down as far as I absolutely could go. And I reached out to a 12-step program. and they reached right back out to me. I've been through rehabs. I think at that time, maybe I stopped counting at 8. And all I knew is that I was ready. I was ready to surrender. And the rest is history. Uh, this the people in the program just took me under their wings. They gave me the kind of hope that I never thought I had. I thought I was going to die with a needle in my arm. I never knew there was redemption. I never knew that I could really allow my life to be transformed into something I couldn't even have imagined would happen to
My.
me. And
Yeah.
even through the darkness, the dangers and the pitfalls, I was shot, and the bullet went through my entire body one night,
Mhm.
and
Woo.
uh, it rested right next to my spine. I
Mhm.
was rushed to the doctor, and I never ever will forget this day.
Mhm.
When I got in the emergency room, I
Mhm.
heard the doctor say, "1 second, take him to the OR. We got to operate him right away." And I said to myself, this was the prayer that I said. I said, God, please don't let me go out like this. My
Mm.
family would never understand it. My friends and people who knew me would never understand. Please don't do that. And the second that I said that prayer, the
Yeah.
absolute second, the bleeding stopped. And the doctor said to me, uh, cancel the OR. You're going to be okay. And
Yeah.
young man, back then I was young, okay?
Yeah.
Young
Yeah.
man, you are blessed and fortunate. I never will forget him saying that. And so I stayed in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, and my lung had collapsed, and they put an underwater seal in my lung. But overall, there's been no ramifications from that situation. So I knew when I got to this program that there was somebody watching out for me the whole time. Uh,
Wow.
that's just one situation. And
Mhm.
so I just held on for dear life. I left Los Angeles because I just couldn't seem to get it together in LA,
Mhm.
and came back to Philadelphia, which is my home, born and
Y'all
raised.
hear that, Philly? Y'all heard that, Philly?
I love Philadelphia, and I know we boast cheesesteaks, okay?
Yes.
And that is without any kind of
Yep.
minimization.
Yep.
Cheesesteaks under any other name or
That's
place
right.
is really not a
That's it.
cheesesteak.
That's
But we
right.
boast Patti LaBelle. We boast Teddy Pendergrass,
Mhm.
the OJs, Kenny Bell. And that's where I came up, and I needed to go back to that. I
Mhm.
needed to go back to my roots, to the people, my mother and father who truly loved me.
Mhm.
And I got clean in August of 1990, 1991,
Mhm.
1991. And the journey has been nothing short of miraculous.
Look at
Ever
that.
since.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's amazing. And so you're going to talk to other audience. What are you going to talk about tonight? What is this, World AIDS Day?
Well, during the time that I was going through my darkness and that period, of course, we know 1981, 1982, HIV/AIDS ravaged the community. It
Mhm.
ravaged mostly in the beginning of the gay community, but it really was a worldwide phenomenon at that time in
Mhm.
Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, not just America, but it was a worldwide a disease that literally devastated our community. And more importantly, it devastated the Black gay community. And
Mhm.
so we had a president during that time who refused to even say the word HIV.
Yeah. Ah, I remember.
So we did not get the kind of support. We did not get the help. The Black community did not get the help that we needed. And even through all of the advocacy from white gay groups, they did advocate, they did march and got funding and got trials. But very little of that sort of trickled down to the Black gay community. Because there
Mm.
is a very, very evident disparity around healthcare access in the Black community
Mhm.
versus the white community. And that still is the same for the gay community and the racism within the gay community, because most of the resources, again, during that time, went to white gay organizations. So we
Right.
had to fight tooth and nail. But let me just say this, because see, there's a light in every storm.
Come on.
So as Black gay men, we had to come together. We had to hold on to each other for dear life because we were losing each other every day. Can you just imagine your close friends, and I knew lots and lots of people, but to go to a funeral every day, and it got to the point where there were so many
Yeah.
that you weren't able to keep up with them. But here is the thing that's the clincher. How many of them died alone?
Mm.
How many of them died in disgrace? How
Yeah.
many of them died um, having their families disown them because
Yeah.
they were gay? How many of them were thrown out of their churches and the churches refused to
Mhm.
funeralize them? And as a respiratory therapist, I was on the front line. I was right there for
Wow.
them. I took care of them because they come in with pneumocystis pneumonia, many of them, that was a hallmark. And
Mhm.
oftentimes they went on a ventilator or had some kind of oxygen or some kind of therapy intervention. So I saw these people. So I did everything that I could, even if I didn't know them, to
Right.
just go over and just hold their hand. That's all. Didn't even have to say
Wow.
anything. But so many of our people died alone. And
Mm.
so um, during that time, I was afraid myself. I mean, I didn't know whether or not, I had it. I know from my much of the things that I was doing during that period certainly put me at
Mhm.
risk. But it was during that time,
Yeah.
during the history, where we really saw the strength in our community, such that there were some people, when their churches wouldn't funeralize them, we funeralized them at the bar. That
Wow.
we funeralized them at each other's homes.
Wow.
We respected and we came together as best we could and provided financial assistance. And later on, I'll talk about one of my heroes,
Uh-huh.
Bishop Carl Bean,
Mhm.
who during that time, uh, was a Black gay preacher who started the first Unity Fellowship movement in Los Angeles. And I'm proud to
Mhm.
say that I was a part of that. But what we did was uh, we brought together these people, these fractured people.
Mhm.
And we said that you do not have to sit up in churches where you are demeaned, where you are ridiculed, where you are ostracized. So he started the first um, Unity Fellowship Church where gays were welcome and affirmed. And
Mm.
in Los Angeles, California, he started the first HIV/AIDS Black owned and Black run
Wow.
organization, which is still in existence today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unity Fellowship churches are still in existence today throughout
Mhm.
the United States. This was a
All over.
movement. But let me just tell you this, and I never will forget it, and I'll say it until I can't say it anymore. We were close friends.
Uh-huh.
And at the height of my darkness, and I just thought there was just no hope,
Mhm.
he came over to me one day
Mhm.
and he held my hand and he told me that I did not have to live that way, that there was a power and
Mm.
strength inside me
Wow.
that could overcome anything,
Mhm.
and that God loved me, just
Oh.
that I could bloom right where I am planted, and that I did not have to be somebody else for anybody else. And that
Mhm.
just is something. It
Yeah,
planted
I can see that. I can see why that would hit you.
it planted a seed. And he passed a few months ago. Well, it may have been about a year or so ago. But I never will forget our strength, our power,
Mhm.
our heroes, our sheroes. Let me just tell you, Black women
Oh,
lesbians
man,
have come
yes.
to our aid during that particular
Yeah.
time, and they weren't even at risk for HIV. But
Mm-hmm.
they came in, they worked with us, they cried with us, they provided meals for us. And so we are forever grateful for our brothers and our sisters
Mm-hmm.
who, during the time when we needed them most, they rose to the occasion.
Wow, thank you very much. Good stuff. That's really good stuff. I do have your PowerPoint up. I'm going to bring it up. Just keep. We have to keep in time the keep in mind the time
Mm-hmm.
because we have to do 5 minutes before um 9 so that it can download appropriately onto Instagram.
So we're at 8:30 now, right?
25 after.
Okay, so what I got about 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes.
Maybe 25.
Okay, so when I'm like 5 minutes away, give me a high five. Give me a Philly high five.
Bam, baby,
Yeah,
bam.
because when I get in the zone, sometimes I just need to be
Oh,
pulled
I
back.
already know how you gonna do. Let me see my screen. Listen, I got a real good idea.
Yes.
Let me share and bring up your PowerPoint. Amazing. Let me go to. Oh, let me open it. Open. Hold on. Enable that. Wow, you've been through it, but look at you now. And then you became a doctor. That blows my mind. I'm so happy for you, for
Thank you.
us,
Thank
period. The dream team.
you. Absolutely.
There you go. Can you see it?
We can see it now. Can you make it a little bit bigger?
Bigger, bigger, bigger. Hold on. Let me see. I sure can. Let me
And if you
do.
can't, that's all right, as long as the audience can see it, because I
Mhm.
also have it in my on my
How's
other
that? Is
computer.
that better?
Uh, it's a little bit better, but I'll go ahead and use my just look at mine. You can just go ahead, but yeah, that's great. So essentially, what I want to talk about, I just want to educate people on this World AIDS Day,
Mhm.
sort of a little bit about HIV, but to just kind of talk about trends, talk about how this disease is still impacting our community, and it's impacting the Black gay community more than any community in the United States. So when we
Mhm.
talk about the epicenter of HIV,
Mhm.
it looks like Black gay men, such that the CDC says that 1 in 2 Black gay men will get HIV within their lifetime if there's not some significant interventions. So we're in trouble.
Mhm.
But the question that we need to ask ourselves is,
Okay.
how is it that a disease that started off looking mostly like white gay men, why is it
Mhm.
now looking like Black gay men?
Okay.
And this did not have to happen. So you got to think about disparities. You got to think about access to care. You got to think about promotion, those kinds of things, because sexual behavior between white Black gay men and between not that dissimilar. So you can't really blame that on behavior. So you have to really look at these health
Mhm.
disparities that really prevent our community from getting the kind of help with the kind of outcomes that are positive. And so we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So I already talked about my lived experience. And all I want to say to that is, if I could have written out how I wanted my life to be when
Mhm.
I came into recovery early on, I would have sold myself short. Who would have
Mm.
known that one of the first things that I was privileged to do is go back to school and get a bachelor's at Temple University in Philadelphia? We love Temple University,
Yeah.
bachelor's in social work. Then came to Atlanta in 1995,
Mhm.
and with the help of my recovery community, and I will forever
Yes.
appreciate the support and the
Mhm.
encouragement and the hope that my recovery family gave me. And so they helped me to see that I could go back to school, that I could get a master's degree. So in
Mhm.
2003, we walked down the aisle at Emory University
All
with
right.
a master's degree in public health. And even with more encouragement, on and on,
Mhm.
um, my recovery friend said, Larry, you ought to go ahead and get your doctorate. And I told him, I said, listen, just wait a minute, because I'm done with school. I don't want to be reading anymore. No more books. I'm good.
Right.
Lo and behold, in 2008, we walked down the aisle at the University of Georgia with a PhD. And
Wow.
I say that
Look
with
at that.
the utmost
Share the hope,
sincerity,
buddy.
because you all helped me. This is our degree. It's our
Right.
degree. This is our successes. And
Mhm.
so when I say that lost dreams are awakened
Yes.
and we can experience a life unlike anything we did, look at this
Mhm.
next slide.
Oh.
So recovery has not only given me a beautiful adopted daughter for the last 20 years, who I love more than anything else, but I'm
Mhm.
now a granddad.
Wow.
Brand new bouncing baby girl who,
Look at your
who
shirt. Look at your shirt. Yum yum.
yes, yes, who will be 11 months on the 11th of, no, on the 11th of December, she'll be 11 months, but the 11th of January, she'll be a whole year. And so
Wow.
there's just a joy that a lot of people talk about, this unspeakable joy. Well, now I
Yes.
know what that is. And it's another level of love that
Praise
I'm
God.
able, through recovery, to be able to give to
Mhm.
someone else. And so love my babies, both of them.
Oh, benefits. Look at that.
Yes.
Wow. That's beautiful.
And so,
Congratulations.
yeah. So we're just going to talk a little bit, just in terms of our objectives, a little bit about stimulant use disorder, particularly crystal meth, because a lot of us are not talking about crystal meth, and it is ravaging the Black gay
Mhm.
community, it's ravaging the gay community, but it particularly is growing in incidence in the Black gay community. So we'll
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that. And most importantly, though, I want to talk about recovery and the power of uh, really, really being able to care for oneself holistically.
Mhm.
Which means, and a lot of us in recovery now, we're growing older. I came in my 30s. I'm almost 70 now. So
Wow.
all the things that happen, these comorbidities, living with HIV
Mhm.
for many, many people, 20, 30, 35 years. What does that mean? What
Yeah.
kind of, what does your life look like? And here's what's even more important. What is it that we are doing so that we can experience this longevity, and how can we
Mhm.
transmit that to a whole new generation, many of whom are clueless?
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit, again, mostly about stimulants, a little bit about cocaine, a little bit um,
Mhm.
crystal meth. But I want to start off on this next slide
Mhm.
talking about meth. If we can go to the next slide.
Mhm.
And so methamphetamine is short for meth. And let me just say that meth was my drug of choice in the 80s. So
Wow.
I know what I'm talking about from a personal, experiential perspective. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. It
Mhm.
was such it was a drug that was just so debilitating
Yeah.
that I am so fortunate, because through every storm, there's a brightness. I don't have any, hopefully, I don't have any psychological aftermath, uh,
Right.
nothing that really kind of reminds me that I used to do this. Because
Yeah.
when I came into recovery, I had needle marks from one end of my arm to the other, on both arms. I
Mm.
had to wear long sleeve shirts for a whole year.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it is a highly, highly addictive, we can go, yeah, highly addictive drug that affects the central nervous system. So it's quite a neurological as well drug. And so when we talk about other names for it, it's called ice sometimes,
Yeah.
chalk, meth, crystal. One of the big ones that we hear all the time is Tina.
Tina.
Yeah, Tina. And oftentimes they've got um, these apps for
Oh.
dating, if you will, dating apps
Mm-hmm.
that literally market and that let people know that they want to have an experience, but they want to do it with substances. And so they
Wow.
don't come out and say cocaine, they don't come out and say marijuana, but they use these terms. So we have to be aware of that because today, much of the dissemination of substances as well as the use of substances are on these dating apps. And of course, crystal meth can be injected,
Mm-hmm.
it can be smoked, uh, and it
Wow.
can be, we can also, it can be drank
Mm-hmm.
in a liquid, if you will. And it can also be snorted. If we go to the next slide.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
let's just go a little bit deeper into crystal meth. So again, the difference between crystal meth and other forms of meth is the strength. So crystal meth literally is different, a little bit different chemically than meth. And so crystal again is a lot stronger than just a regular methamphetamine.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the difference. Then crystal meth and ice are both again street names for the substance as well. So it's important that we know the street names.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, again, I cannot sort of bring this home more than to say that crystal meth is probably one of the most addictive substances known to man.
Wow.
Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hesitant to put this in, but I needed to put this in
Okay.
because when we talk about the effects of crystal meth particularly, look at these diseases that
Mm-hmm.
are associated with other substances too, but particular crystal meth. And we've got the destruction and just, the mouth just becomes eroded. And this is what this picture shows. And really, for many,
Ooh.
is a hallmark
Yeah.
for a person that uses crystal meth. But it literally destroys your teeth, destroys your gums. And we call this
Mm-hmm.
meth mouth. It's sort of a street term.
Yeah.
Some of the other things that's associated with particularly injecting substances, HIV/AIDS, hepatitis C,
Mm-hmm.
endocarditis, which is a heart disease.
Condition. Yeah.
And so what it does, it infects the lining of the heart. And as
Ooh.
respiratory therapists, we take care of these patients. When they go to have surgery, open heart surgery, we
Mm-hmm.
take care of them. So it is a very invasive thing to have. What
Mm-hmm.
comes, part of it comes directly from using substances. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, we talked about mouth as well as the neurological damage as well. Can we go to the next slide?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to begin to ask ourselves the question, why on earth do people use substances? Why do they use meth, particularly, for example? Well, I'd say one is, at least when I started, I had no idea of the devastating effects. There was never education in my schools or anywhere. It was just other people who
Mm-hmm.
were using it as well that says, oh, go ahead and try it. You'll be all right. You don't have to worry about becoming addicted to it. And so part of why people use it is to increase sexual drive and sexual pleasure, particularly in the gay community. That's one
Yeah.
of probably the most salient reasons why they use it. Another is weight loss. Particularly among college students, oftentimes they just want to lose, 10, 15 pounds. And you
Mm-hmm.
can do that with crystal meth. Let me just tell you one thing that is different between crystal meth, let's say, and cocaine is that it lasts so much longer. And
What?
you can literally stay up for days.
Ooh.
I can remember staying up for 5 days in a row.
Mm.
And
You do.
I'm not minimizing it. I mean, I'm not over exaggerating. Literally, you can do that. And you lose weight, you become emaciated. And at that point, that was my younger years. I
Mhm.
wasn't but a 28 waist anyway back then. And so I really didn't have a whole lot that I could afford to lose. But yeah, it definitely will make you lose weight. And also, just as a coping mechanism to escape from guilt and shame
Mhm.
associated with what we've been told about gay sex and the abomination associated with it and all these religious kinds of things that we're taught about who we are and our sexual orientation.
Mhm.
It lowers your sexual inhibitions. And it also facilitates, particularly youngsters that are, younger, 20s, and that may be shy about coming out or talking to people. It literally facilitates intimacy and
Mhm.
conversation. And also, it increases longevity of sex as well as the number of sex partners. So when we're talking about um, crystal meth, particularly in the gay community, it really is a lot of it, not all of it, is associated with enhanced sexual.
Ain't
Uh,
that something?
yes, yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow.
And so let's talk just a little bit about cocaine, because there's a significant increase in cocaine as well. And we know when we look at crystal or methamphetamine and opioids, if you will, the response, the attitudes were so much different than the opioid
Mhm.
epidemic.
Yeah.
Because the opioid epidemic mostly affected white rural communities, the response was much more empathetic. The response was much more, we need to put these people in treatment. Whereas with the crack epidemic, we know that there are still people languishing in prisons throughout the United States for
Mhm.
small amounts of cocaine use. And so the response for crack was mostly incarceration. And many people think that African Americans are the ones that mostly use crack, and that's just not true. Whites use crack
That's
more
right.
than African Americans, but we're the ones that were on the 5 o'clock news.
How about that?
So, yeah, and so we want to just make that distinction between these. And with cocaine, particularly crack cocaine, the high lasts very, very shortly. And it's the difference with these two substances is there's this what we call the finding and the using and finding ways
Mhm.
and means to get more,
More.
because it's really more about the chase and just getting more and getting more. And it's not quite like that with crystal meth. Next, how are we doing with time?
Oh,
Mike?
you got about 15 minutes.
Okay, good, good, good. I think I'm
You good? Yeah, you on the road.
okay. If we can go to the next slide. No, no, we didn't do this with cocaine risk. Let's go back. So here's what's important about cocaine risk, and to a lesser extent, crystal meth. It impairs immune cell function. So it literally, in this second box here, is what's important. It literally promotes the replication of the HIV virus.
Mm-hmm.
And so the conversation then becomes with your physician. That's why it's important to have a working relationship with your physician as to when is the most appropriate time for you to start therapy. Because
Mm-hmm.
unlike the 80s and part of the 90s, today we've got life-saving medications that's just miraculous. I'll talk a little bit about that. But the most important thing about treatment and the substances and the drug is that they have to be taken as prescribed. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
It also potentiates the damaging effects of HIV on cells, not only in the brain, but also in the spinal cord. It also accelerates the development of HIV negative related neurological conditions as well. And again, it increases the risk for hepatitis C. And I just want to say that I also had hepatitis C. And I had a
Mm.
very, very resistant form of hepatitis C. I had to go on medication for 2 years. And literally, I was sick every day. The
Wow.
first year, it didn't work, but I had to take off an entire year from work.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about, I'd lost about 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I had to inject myself at home. And
Mm-hmm.
every time I took it, it's literally it's chemotherapy. And it
Mm-hmm.
just made me feel horrible. And I just want to tell this story just to just show you the goodness of people, right? So I had a home group, my 12-step program, and they knew what I was going through, right? So this was a Sunday afternoon. I never will forget. And I heard my doorbell ring. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'm not expecting anybody because I was in bed. I wasn't feeling well. And so I went down and answered the door. Lo and behold, it was my home group members because I had not been to a meeting or involved for like
They
weeks.
came to get you.
They came, but they did not come empty handed. They
Okay.
came with fried chicken. They came with greens and beans and black eyed peas and sweet potato pie and a bona fide show enough pound cake. And I tell you that we had a meeting. We had a meeting right in my living room. And I never will forget that
Wow.
because that gave me the incentive and the
Mm-hmm.
inspiration to get up and
Mm-hmm.
get out of that bed and start engaging in life again.
My.
And even though the first year didn't work, the second year did. So
Mm-hmm.
in 2003, I walk into my doctor's office and he says to me, Larry Bryant, he called me Lawrence Bryant, you are
Mm-hmm.
so fortunate because now you are hepatitis C free and you have been cured from hepatitis C.
Wow.
Another miracle, another miracle. And so moving on to the next slide.
Overcome, conquer, and survive. Wow.
Absolutely. This slide is very important, and I'm going to spend just a minute on this slide because
Mm-hmm.
it really talks about some elements around HIV and AIDS
Mm-hmm.
that we need to be aware of. Number one, viral load. Viral load is the amount of HIV that's in your system. And the
Mm-hmm.
more HIV you have in your system, the more potential for you to get disease. So our goal with the medication, we call it antiretroviral therapy. The
Mm-hmm.
goal is to bring our viral load to undetectable levels. You see that the
Yeah.
purple where it says undetectable.
Yeah.
The word is golden.
Yeah.
That word is a miracle because if you are undetectable and if you don't get anything else out of this presentation,
Mm-hmm.
no, that means you cannot pass the virus on.
Mm.
Undetectable equals prevention. That
Mm.
means not to say you can't catch other STDs because syphilis is rampant. But in terms of HIV, we're at a time which is a good time in terms of medication. And so when we talk about undetectable, it means that the virus is so low in our bodies that the
Thank
medication
you.
has done such a good job that our equipment can't detect.
Come
But
on.
we know that there's still some HIV that hides in what we call reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
But we want and urge people to get tested. That's the green box. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
get tested, you don't know your status. You don't get this
You don't get the help.
the
Yeah.
stuff that you need, and so you don't have the benefit of living longer. This can be treated as a chronic disease. And the other thing is medication adherence. The orange box. It's very, very important that you adhere to the medication very strictly because what can happen if you don't, the virus can become resistant to that medication and then you have to change medications, some of which may be more toxic for you. And so you want to
Mm-hmm.
be very, very careful that you're taking them just as prescribed. And the good news is that they've got medication out there that you only take once a day, one pill a day,
Good.
compared to like AZT early on that was so toxic.
I'll never forget that.
But let me just say, we've got a new drug out, Cabenuva, that is an injectable drug. You go to your physician's office and you only need to be injected once every other month.
Oh.
Once every other month. So we're at a good place. In this last box, I want to talk just a little bit about disclosure. And what that means is telling other people before you have sex with them or before you decide to have a relationship with them, telling them your status. And I think that's important, even if there's undetectable, you're undetectable. I think it's important because everybody doesn't know this, doesn't have this information. And other
Mm-hmm.
people, some people still are afraid of that they may catch it. So it's important to disclose. Plus, especially here in Georgia, HIV has been very criminalized.
Mm-hmm.
While we're addressing that and hoping that the criminal justice system catches up with the science, but in a lot of places, if you knowingly, and then I'm not saying giving somebody HIV, if you knowingly expose someone to HIV, you can be put in jail for 10 years.
In Georgia.
In Georgia.
Wow.
And they are working through some laws that deal with that, and I'm not sure how far they've come along with those the new laws, but in the past that's been their pattern, and so we really have to pay attention and understand that there may be consequences if you don't tell people that your status. And so I'm just going to go through these next slides. I think we have 10 minutes left.
Well, I'll tell you that, nope, we don't. We only have 5, but I'll tell you something. We can stop right here because on next Thursday, because we're 4 weeks. We're every Thursday for December.
Okay.
We can pick back up.
Absolutely.
And then you can pick back up. But I want to see if I want to go to, let me get this down and see if I can go to the chat. I want to see if anybody wants to call in 267-242-0399. You can call in if you like. Now would be a really good time. Let me just see what else is going on here. Did I take it down? Yes, it's down. Okay, good. And if you had any other final remarks for the audience, I'm going to ask that everybody tune in again on next week. And remember that this is on all the platforms. It is on YouTube, my YouTube page, which is Bring It to the Table by Author Doc B. It's on Twitter, Bring It to the Table by Author Doc B. It is on all of the Facebook channels, my books channels. And so you can always go back on and view it, click it, like it, share it, comment. And just one important thing, make sure you join us again at next Thursday night.
So are we calling this part 2?
Yes, we can do a part 2. That's the beauty of this platform.
We'll come back to criminalization.
And, we can come back to that. That's fine. Absolutely. Yeah. So I want to thank you. I don't see anybody that dropped any more comments. And so they got to get used to me being in Atlanta now.
Okay.
Because my primary audience was Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So that was like the main thing. And now I'm out here. So we got to always say, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram and all the social media. We're even on LinkedIn. This is being shown on LinkedIn right now, live. So you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you all can view this anytime and anything else that's up there. I want to thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Larry. And I'm looking forward to working with you in December. I cannot wait.
Absolutely. And same here. And again, it's an honor to just be able to be here.
Thank you so much. Good night. I'll see you next week.
Good night.
Good night.